Hey everyone. I have a story today that is honestly disgusting. Like, I still get shivers thinking about it. It's one of those I can't unsee it kind of stories. So if you're squeamish, maybe don't watch this alone, okay? Let's start at the beginning. So, I'm Emma, and this all happened when I was 17, fresh out of high school. I had just moved into my first apartment with my boyfriend, Jake, and my stepbrother, Liam. It was a small trailer, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. Tiny, but perfect for 2 broke kids starting out on their own, now. Liam and I, well, let's say we didn't exactly get along. We argued constantly over the dumbest stuff. And then, one day, out of nowhere, he just left. No warning, no discussion, just a note that said, I moved out. Gone. All of his stuff. Just gone, so Jake and I were suddenly panicking. We needed a roommate. Fast. Bills weren't going to pay themselves, and neither of us had extra cash. Enter Derek. He was part of our friend group growing up, always around, always acting like the life of the party. And at first glance, he seemed perfect, steady job, money to help with rent, and a friendly face, but Derek. Oh, Derek had some habits. Weird habits. For one, he lied. Constantly. About everything, like, we'd see him leave work and go straight to his room. And then later, he'd come out and tell us some wild story about having a crazy adventure all day. And when we'd call him out, he'd just laugh like we were joking. Totally unfazed, honestly, even thinking about it now. It should have been a huge red flag. But we were young, broke, and desperate. So we let him move in. Big mistake, the trailer layout matters here. You walked in the front door into the living room/kitchen. Off the living room was one small bedroom. Down the hall, there was the tiniest bedroom, the only bathroom, and finally our master bedroom at the end. The problem? Derek would wake up ridiculously early, and the bathroom was right next to our bedroom. So I could hear every single thing, and honestly, I hated him from day one, so I developed a routine. I'd stay in bed until I heard him leave. Avoid him entirely. Let Jake handle Derek if he had to. One morning, after a huge party the night before, our trailer was packed. People were sleeping in the extra bedroom, passed out on the couch. Total chaos. I finally got up, headed to the bathroom, and flipped on the light. And froze. Something on the edge of the tub caught my eye. It was a travel toothbrush case, the cylindrical kind that splits in the middle. And it was taped shut. And around it was a condom. I screamed. I screamed like I had seen a monster. Everyone woke up instantly. The people sleeping in the extra bedroom started groaning and rubbing their eyes. Jake came running from our bedroom, still half asleep, and I just pointed at the tub, my voice shaking. He is getting kicked out today. Jake froze for a second, staring at the toothbrush case wrapped in tape and the condom, probably thinking I was joking. But when he realized I wasn't, his face went pale. I couldn't even explain it at first. My stomach was twisting. It wasn't just gross. It was deliberate. Derek had clearly planned this. He wasn't just being weird, he had a process. We didn't even have to talk. I knew what had to happen. Derek was out. That day. No questions asked. Later, Derek packed his stuff. He was upset, of course. He didn't like being told what to do, but he left anyway. And that's when we discovered the full horror. The bedroom he had lived in was a nightmare. There were piss jugs everywhere. Tied off condoms in random places. Dirty laundry piled high. But the thing that made my stomach turn the most was his dresser. I opened the drawers slowly, almost afraid of what I would see. Inside, there were tiny frilly socks, a little princess shirt the size of a toddler, and random pieces of candy all thrown together in one drawer. No kids. No explanation. Just chaos. My hands were shaking as I shut the drawer. I could not wrap my head around it. Jake and I spent hours cleaning that room, scrubbing, tossing things out, trying not to gag. Every time we found something new, it was worse than the last. It wasn't just disgusting, it was disturbing. After we finally got the place back in order, we reported Derek to the police. And, as you can imagine, our entire friend group cut off contact. No one wanted to hear from him again. No one wanted anything to do with him, even years later. Thinking about it makes my stomach churn. Derek had been systematic, organized even, in his gross habits. He wasn't careless, he had routines, plans, methods. That's what made it so horrifying, so yeah. Moral of the story? Sometimes, the people you let into your home seem harmless, maybe even trustworthy. But if you notice weird patterns, strange habits, or anything that gives you pause, listen to your gut, and trust me. You do not want to find a toothbrush case wrapped in tape and a condom sitting on your tub. Ever. Before the toothbrush incident even happened, Derek had been creeping me out in small ways. At first, it was subtle, little things that seemed harmless. But looking back, they were all signs. For instance, he had this habit of disappearing for long stretches, then coming back with wild stories. One time, he swore he had gone on a secret adventure to the city and met celebrities, when all of us had literally watched him leave work and walk straight to his room. When we called him out, he'd just laugh, like we were imagining it. At the time, I thought he was just annoying. But now, I realize he was used to lying and manipulating everyone around him. He also had this way of getting under my skin. He would leave things just slightly out of place, like little traps designed to irritate. A half-empty soda left on the counter, shoes scattered perfectly so you'd stub your toe. Little notes that made no sense. Just enough to make the place feel off, even when it was normal. The party the night before the toothbrush discovery had been wild, of course. Our trailer was packed with friends, music blasting, people sprawled everywhere. And Derek. He mostly kept to himself. He'd disappear into his room for long stretches, sometimes coming out with a beer or snack, acting like nothing was happening. I remember watching him one time, sneaking back into his room with a strange look on his face. He closed the door slowly and locked it. My stomach twisted, but I told myself I was overthinking it. Little did I know. That was just a normal night for him, the morning after the party. I was still half asleep when I finally got up. I tiptoed past the living room, careful not to wake anyone, and went to the bathroom. That's when I saw it, the toothbrush case, taped shut, with the condom. I froze. I couldn't even process it at first. My mind was screaming, "What is happening right now?" I screamed. I don't even know how else to describe it. It wasn't just a normal scream, it was the kind of scream that comes from shock, fear, and complete disgust all at once. People woke up immediately. Friends groaning, Jake running in, trying to figure out what had set me off. And when they saw it, they froze too. When Derek realized what had happened, he tried to play it off. "It's not what it looks like," he said, laughing nervously, like it was some kind of joke. But we all knew exactly what it was. That was the moment I realized, this wasn't just someone being gross. Derek had routines. He had plans. And we had been living with it. Every day, later, when he moved out that same night, the horror continued. His bedroom was a nightmare. Piss jugs hidden in corners, tied-off condoms scattered everywhere. And then the dresser. Oh, the dresser. I opened the drawers slowly, feeling a mix of fear and curiosity. Inside were tiny girls' socks, a frilly princess shirt for a toddler, and random candy all jumbled together. I couldn't comprehend it. No kids, no explanation. Just chaos and obsession, all in one drawer. Cleaning the room took hours. Jake and I were gagging, throwing things away, scrubbing floors. Every corner held something that made our stomachs turn. And all the while, I kept thinking, how could someone live like this? and think it's normal. Even after reporting Derek to the police and cutting off all contact, the memory lingered. It wasn't just about the grossness, it was the methodical way he did it. The way he lied, manipulated, and created his own little world of filth. And that's what makes it stick with me all these years later. Before the toothbrush incident, Derek's behavior had already started to unsettle me. At first, it was subtle, things that didn't seem like a big deal at the time. He would disappear for hours, going into his room, locking the door, and then coming out acting like nothing happened. Once, he swore he had spent the afternoon at some fancy party downtown meeting celebrities. We all just stared at him. Derek. We literally watched you leave work and walk home, Jake said. And Derek just laughed. Like it was hilarious. He also had little habits that were off. Like, he'd move things around in the trailer just slightly, so you'd bump into them or trip. Shoes left in awkward spots, cups slightly tilted so they'd spill if you weren't careful, random little notes that didn't make sense. Just enough to make the place feel strange without anyone realizing it right away. The night of the party, Derek mostly kept to himself. The trailer was packed, friends sprawled everywhere, music blaring, people passed out on couches and the floor. And Derek. He was oddly calm. He slipped in and out of his room, sometimes with a snack or a drink, never talking to anyone for long. I remember seeing him sneak back into his room at one point, looking around as if he didn't want anyone to see him, and quietly locking the door. I shrugged it off at the time. That morning after the party, the trailer was a mess. Half the people were still asleep, sprawled on couches or in spare rooms. I finally got up, careful not to wake anyone, and headed to the bathroom. That's when I froze. On the edge of the tub was a cylindrical travel toothbrush case, duct taped shut and wrapped around it. A condom. I screamed like I'd seen a monster. It wasn't a normal scream. It was the kind of scream that comes from shock, disbelief, and pure disgust all at once. People woke up immediately. Jake came running, bleary-eyed. Friends were groaning and confused. And when they saw it, they froze. Derek tried to play it off, nervously laughing. "It's not what it looks like," he said. But we all knew exactly what it was. That was the moment I realized something important. This wasn't just a gross accident. Derek had a method, a routine, a plan. And for weeks, maybe months, we had been living in a house with him while he followed it. When Derek moved out later that night, the real horror continued. His bedroom was a disaster. Piss jugs hidden in corners, tied-off condoms scattered on the floor. And the dresser. Oh, the dresser. I opened the drawers slowly, hands trembling. Inside were tiny frilly socks, a princess shirt the size of a toddler, and random candy, all jumbled together. No kids. No explanation. Just chaos. Cleaning the room was a nightmare. Jake and I spent hours scrubbing and throwing things away, gagging as we went. Every time I found something new, my stomach twisted. And all the while, I kept thinking, how could someone live like this and think it was normal? Even after reporting him to the police and cutting off all contact, the memory stayed with me. It wasn't just the grossness, it was the organization, the planning, the lies, and the complete lack of awareness or remorse. Years later, I still think about it. The smell, the chaos, the hidden routines. It sticks with me. Even before the party, Derek's behavior was off in ways that should have set off alarm bells. At first, it was little things, tiny irritations that I brushed off as quirks. He had this habit of sneaking into his room for hours, sometimes locking the door, then coming out later with a completely different story about what he'd been doing. Once, he claimed he had spent the afternoon at some exclusive event downtown, meeting famous people. We all looked at each other and whispered, "We literally watched you leave work and walk home." And Derek just laughed like it was funny. He also had these small, weird ways of messing with the house. Shoes left just in a spot where you'd trip. Cups tilted slightly on counters, so they'd spill if you bumped them. Little notes left on the fridge or dresser with random scribbles that didn't make sense, nothing overtly threatening. Just unsettling. It made the trailer feel off in ways that were hard to describe, like the whole place was slightly wrong. The party was supposed to be fun, but Derek's behavior had already put me on edge. Everyone else was passed out or trying to recover from the night before. Music was still playing softly in the background, half-empty cups littered the living room, and friends were sprawled on the floor and couch. Derek, of course, kept mostly to himself. I remember catching glimpses of him slipping into his room at odd times, quietly locking the door behind him. Sometimes he would come out, smile awkwardly, grab a snack, and disappear again. There was something about the way he moved, calculated. Almost like he was on a mission. I didn't know it yet, but he really was. Then came the morning. I had barely slept. The trailer was full of people passed out from the night before. I got up, careful not to wake anyone, and made my way to the bathroom, and then I saw it. On the edge of the tub, there was a cylindrical travel toothbrush case. Duct taped shut. Wrapped around it. A condom. I froze. I couldn't even scream at first. My stomach flipped. I don't think I've ever felt disgust and shock like that in my life. Then it hit me, and I screamed. Friends stirred awake, groaning and confused. Jake came running, rubbing his eyes. And when they saw what had caused me to scream, the room went silent. Derek tried to play it off, nervously laughing, saying, "It's not what it looks like." But everyone knew exactly what it was. That's when it clicked. Derek wasn't just gross or weird, he had routines. Systems. Planning. And for who knows how long, he had been operating like this while we lived under the same roof. Later that night, Derek moved out, but the nightmare wasn't over. His bedroom was a disaster, piss jugs hidden in corners. Tied-off condoms scattered everywhere. Dirty laundry. And the dresser. Oh, the dresser. I opened it slowly, heart pounding. Inside were tiny frilly socks, a toddler-sized princess shirt, and random candy, all shoved together in one drawer. No explanation. No kids. Just chaos. Jake and I spent hours cleaning. Gagging. Scrubbing floors. Throwing things away. Every time I found something new, my stomach twisted. I kept thinking, how could someone live like this and not see anything wrong? Even after reporting him to the police and cutting off all contact, the memory stayed. It wasn't just the grossness, it was the way he had planned it. Lied and manipulated everyone around him. Years later, I still think about it. The smell, the mess, the hidden routines. It lingers, and that's why I tell this story. To warn people. To remind myself that instincts matter. And maybe, just maybe, to make sure no one else has to live through something like Derek. Even before the party, there were little moments that made my skin crawl, but I didn't fully connect the dots. Derek would lie constantly, sometimes about nothing, just for the thrill of it. He would tell stories about things he supposedly did during the day, adventures that no one witnessed, and yet he spoke with absolute confidence. One evening, I caught him sneaking out of his room with a small bag, only to come back an hour later and claim he had gone to the grocery store. Jake had walked past the living room and saw him enter the hallway. There was no grocery store run. When we questioned him, he laughed and said, "You guys are paranoid. I can do whatever I want." It was unsettling, but we were young and didn't know how serious it was. Then there were the smaller, creepier things. He would sometimes leave the bathroom door cracked slightly so he could peek out, or leave random things in the living room arranged in odd ways, cups tilted, shoes slightly moved, tiny sticky notes on the fridge with weird messages. Nothing violent, nothing overtly alarming. But just enough to make the place feel off, like someone else was in control of the house. The night of the party, the tension built without anyone realizing it. Music played, friends laughed and stumbled around, passed out bodies on couches and the floor. Derek kept to himself, slipping in and out of his room like a ghost. I remember seeing him lock the door quietly at one point, peeking out the window, and then sitting on his bed as if planning something. There was an air about him, calculated, almost predatory, though at the time, I just felt uncomfortable. I tried to shrug it off, thinking maybe I was imagining it. But deep down, something felt wrong. The next morning, I woke up groggy from the chaos of the party. The trailer smelled like spilled drinks and stale pizza. Friends were sleeping wherever they had collapsed, groaning and mumbling. I got out of bed carefully, trying to avoid stepping on anyone or anything, and headed toward the bathroom, and then I saw it, a cylindrical travel toothbrush case on the edge of the tub. Duct-taped shut. And wrapped around it. A condom. I froze. My stomach flipped. My mind couldn't even process what I was seeing. And then the scream came out of me, loud and unrestrained, a primal reaction to shock, disgust, and horror all at once. Everyone in the trailer woke up instantly. Jake came running, rubbing his eyes. Friends stumbled toward the bathroom, groggy and confused. And when they saw it, they froze too. Derek appeared in the doorway, trying to laugh it off. "It's not what it looks like," he said nervously. But we all knew exactly what it was. That's when it hit me. Derek wasn't just a weird, gross roommate. He had a method. A routine. He had been operating like this under our noses for who knows how long. Later that night, he packed up and moved out. But the nightmare wasn't over. His bedroom was a disaster, piss jugs hidden in corners, tied-off condoms scattered on the floor, laundry piled high. And then, the dresser. I opened it slowly, heart pounding. Inside were tiny frilly socks, a toddler-sized princess shirt, and candy, all shoved together in one drawer. No explanation. No children. Just chaos and obsession. Jake and I spent hours cleaning. We gagged, scrubbed, threw things away, and tried not to imagine what had been happening behind closed doors. Every time we uncovered something new, my stomach twisted. And all the while, I kept thinking, how could someone live like this, follow these routines, and not think there was anything wrong with it? Even after reporting him to the police and cutting off all contact, the memory never went away. It wasn't just the grossness. It was the organization, the planning, the lies, the manipulation. It was the fact that we had been living with someone like that every day without fully realizing it. Years later, I still think about it. The smell, the mess. The hidden routines. It lingers. And the story isn't just about grossness. It's a warning: trust your instincts, pay attention to red flags, and never ignore that gut feeling, because sometimes, what seems like just a weird roommate turns out to be something much worse. Before the toothbrush incident, there were countless tiny things Derek did that didn't make sense at the time, but looking back, they were all red flags. He also had this habit of testing boundaries. He'd leave things just slightly out of place so someone would bump into them, or move items around so it felt like the trailer was subtly off. Little things, like a cup that tipped when you nudged it, shoes placed in awkward spots, even slightly adjusting people's chairs when they weren't looking. At first, it was just annoying. Later, it made perfect sense why he did it. He liked control. Looking back, all of these things were pieces of a puzzle. The early mornings, the locked doors, the lies, the tiny signs of obsession, they all added up. And the toothbrush incident. It wasn't an isolated moment. It was just the point where everything snapped into focus. All those small, creepy behaviors before the big discovery were hints that something was deeply, disturbingly wrong. And the worst part? We lived with it for weeks, thinking we were just dealing with a quirky, annoying roommate. But he wasn't quirky, he wasn't annoying. He was systematic, methodical, and completely twisted. After everything, the toothbrush case, the dresser, the piss jugs, the tied-off condoms, the tiny clothes and candy, we thought the nightmare was over. Derek was gone. The police were involved. Our friend group cut all contact. And yet, I couldn't shake it. Even weeks later, I would catch myself double-checking the bathroom, or walking past his old bedroom door and shivering. The memory was stuck in my head, vivid, like a movie that wouldn't stop playing. It wasn't just the grossness, it was the methodical, planned nature of it. The way he had routines, rituals, and a hidden world inside that room that no one should ever see. It was deliberate. Calculated. And knowing that someone like that had been living with us, so close, was terrifying. I think what haunts me the most is how normal he seemed at first. Charming in the right moments. Funny. Part of our friend group. And yet, behind closed doors, he was a completely different person. It's the kind of thing that makes you question your instincts, and yet, deep down, all the little red flags were there, you just didn't fully understand them at the time. Looking back, I realize now how important it is to trust that gut feeling. When something feels off about a person, it probably is. And even if it seems like you're overreacting, it's better to be cautious than to wake up one morning and see a toothbrush case with a condom on the edge of your tub. I've told this story to friends a few times, and each time, I feel a little re-triggered. But I tell it because people need to hear it. Not just as a gross story time, but as a warning. Watch for the small signs. Trust your instincts. Don't ignore patterns that feel off, even if they seem minor, because sometimes, the most horrifying things don't arrive with a warning. They build slowly, quietly, until one day, you're confronted with a reality so disturbing, so unnatural, it leaves a permanent mark. And yes, even now, years later, thinking about Derek, the trailer, the mess, the routines, it still gives me chills. It's a story I'll never forget. A memory scarred into my brain. And maybe, sharing it here, I can help someone else recognize the signs before it's too late.